this thing on? I think this thing is on. Welcome back, y'all, to another magical, I think is a good word, another magical episode of the Crystal Lens Experience. I am your host, Crystal, aka the Crystal Lens. And, you know, life has been life, y'all, but it's been moving and grooving in all the best of ways. And today I have one of my good friends, good friends, um who actually I feel like we became, well, we'll get into it, but we became like, we were pandemic friends, and grew into being, like business partners and working together, and just kind of like getting into our creative bags together. So I am super duper excited to introduce y'all to the homie, the friend, the one, the only, okay? Sunday Rose Gold, aka Gelato. And only I can call her Gelato because you feel me, like what happened. Okay, let me tell you what happened before. Let me tell you what happened. I thought her name, girl, you already know. I thought her name was Sunday, like, the ice cream. So I was like, oh, shoot, like gelato, you know what I mean? Like fancy ice cream, like, Italian, you know what I mean? And, it was not that. It was Sunday, like the day. And I was like, well, that's cool too. But gelato just kind of stuck. So, if y'all hear, me call her gelato, that's because, it's force of habit, like Sunday comes next, but gelato was like my first, uh, instinct. But hey, girl, hey, welcome to the podcast.
Pew pew pew
Pew,
pew.
pew, pew, pew.
Thank you, Crystal. I love you deep. And yeah, we definitely became friends during the pandemic. We're gonna get into that
Yep.
as we get into this conversation. But funny enough, random fact, I'm like 5% Italian. So I
You
learned
know
that after
what?
the fact that when after Crystal was calling me gelato, that I was part Italian. So I mean, truly, she's spiritual. She knew something.
I knew you. I knew you had that je ne sais quoi in you. Okay, I knew. I just knew. Yes.
You knew.
Ooh.
You was a.
Yes.
That's why you a coach, because you be knowing.
Okay. Okay. Period.
Period.
Period. And we're gonna talk about that today too, because y'all, I'm life is moving and grooving, y'all. But welcome. You feel me? To the Crystalline experience, and you know what? Let's start from the beginning. So we were pandemic friends,
Hmm.
and we're here today. What's our goal for today? Let's start with the goal, and then we'll loop back around to you know kind of
Yes,
the
yes,
journey
yes,
to the goal. Yeah.
yes. I think that it's really important for folks to understand, maybe through our journey in working together, how important it is
Hmm.
to invest um, into coaching and into being vulnerable enough to let somebody in to really support you, especially when you're a creative, because, you know, when you're a creative, you're real sensitive about your thing.
Okay.
And so it's really hard to allow that level of vulnerability. But, truly, you are one of the baddest. So I really had no choice. But I think for that is definitely the goal here. I want y'all to understand how important it is to be vulnerable enough to allow um, a coach, whether it is Crystal or whether it is someone else, into your life
Hmm.
to support you in doing the things that maybe you don't really have too much of a handle on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. I love that. I love that. And it is true. It's really important to invest. And I've invested in myself in a multitude of ways. And this coaching journey is just kind of like, I feel like the right like next step, I've
Mm-hmm.
invested in, and shout out to my coach Kelly J, who, I feel like if you see somebody doing, who looks like you doing something that you've never seen kind of done before,
Yes.
it really opens up your eyes, right? And
Yes.
having someone who, whether they speak your language or they're able to interpret what you're saying and give you new language, like there's so many layers to it. But I say all that to say I definitely took the time to invest in myself. I think the biggest investment thus far, and I still stand on it, was therapy and
Oh yeah.
doing a solid, like, I mean, from like 2014 to like 2024, like consistently, like for years, different therapists. I moved, I got a new therapist, but like always making sure I was in there. It was a solid, and I didn't realize until I looked back, and I was like, bro, it's been like 10 years. It's crazy.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
wild. It's absolutely wild. But just to deal with, the trauma, right? Because we all have what it is, right? We have trauma, right? I think
Mhm.
as people of color, especially Black folk across the diaspora,
Mhm.
right? We have
Mhm.
trauma that did not necessarily come from us. And that is important to note, right? Because some trauma, right, like you inherited in this lifetime, other trauma, like you inherited when you were just simply born through your lineage. And so, excuse me, I think what I did was I was able to identify, those traumas, right? The current, the past, and new ones that were popping up.
Yeah.
And also deal with the good stuff too, right? It wasn't all about like trauma. Not that therapy, um, you know, is only for like the negative and the bad stuff, right? Like it's also for the
Mhm.
good stuff. Like I had a safe space to celebrate my wins as well. Someone who was gonna, encourage me and, tell me to keep going and things like that. So, and granted, like therapy is a little different from like coaching. But it
Yeah.
is a version of coaching, right? It's like almost like mental health coaching. Um, which I absolutely love. So yeah, I feel like that's been like the biggest investment. And obviously that's not only an investment of my money, but like because you gotta pay them copays, you know what I mean? Therapy ain't free.
Yes. It's
But
not.
okay, and it's not cheap, you know what I mean? Like you can go cheap, right? But you may not get quality. And
Yes.
you can
Very true.
go, there's so many different ways that therapy can look. But um yeah, I think just investing the time, the money, the effort, the vulnerability, like you were talking about, and having tough conversations and um, just getting that support, I think was really huge and monumental for me. I don't know about you, Sunday. Like, what has been, I think, like your biggest investment in yourself, like that you would say to date?
Truly, I'm on the same wavelength as you when it comes to therapy, probably being one of my biggest investments.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we said, therapy and coaching are very different in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that a therapist is someone who is able to diagnose,
Mm-hmm.
right, and
Mm-hmm.
treat
Mm-hmm. From like a
disorders
clinical
from a clinical
standpoint.
perspective.
Yes.
Um, and a coach is someone who supports you in reaching certain goals using tools. And there is not a clinical
Aspect.
component into
Yeah.
coaching, right?
Yeah.
And so my biggest investment initially had been therapy, and it was different forms of therapy. And going through
Mm-hmm.
those different forms of therapy really helped me understand the kind of coaches that I needed too.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a dance therapist, a creative arts dance therapist. I had a somatic therapist that I invested into. I also started working with a sex therapist as well, um, which helped me with a lot of capital T trauma that all of us had. And these therapists were not folks who they didn't take insurance. So that's why it was another big investment because I was paying
Yeah.
these people at full cost for their
Yeah.
time. And so over the years, it's funny, I was doing the math the other day. Over the years, at this point, I probably invested a solid, maybe somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 into therapy
Uh,
over the last 4 or 5 years. So that's been my largest investment, but that investment helped me to really see for myself where I was encountering big creative blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and therapists are able to support from that clinical position, but not always available in the ways a coach is, where you can check in with the coach. You got shorter check-ins with the coach.
Yeah.
When
You
I
can
started
text your
working with
coach.
you, yeah, I had a little bit more leeway as far as the communication went.
Yeah.
And also just more accountability. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you held me very accountable as we went through the process of building branding for my creative projects and my creative brands, while my therapist was able to help me identify some of the limiting belief patterns and
Mm-hmm.
clinical things that may be behind the scene. So
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
really supportive to have like a creative arts therapist and then also have a creative coach, right? Someone who can help me to bring this stuff into fruition. My therapist helped me bring it out of my subconscious. And then my
Yeah.
coach helped me bring it from my conscious into the world. So
Come on.
that's how I would
I
say
love
that.
that. And I think it's not therapy or coaching. I think it's therapy and coaching because
I agree.
I think where therapy you know is limiting, right, is I think sometimes in that interpersonal aspect in terms of like knowing your therapist and like understanding their story and their journey, right? Like therapists often aren't sharing much about their personal lives, right? And
Yes.
unless it's like extremely relevant and doesn't break HIPAA, and there's just so many different hoops you have
Yeah,
to
it is.
jump through, right? But with
Mm-hmm.
coaching, the beautiful thing, which I love, and which is why I love doing it, and I was doing it long before I realized I was doing it, but what I love is that you can have that very personal relationship with each of your clients, and you can be very candid. You can tell them the good, the bad, the ugly about what you went through, how you went through it. And I think what's cool, and especially with the way I coach and that I don't see with others, is that um I don't know, I feel like I'm just able to I'm almost like the lens behind the therapy, right? Because I've been to
Mm-hmm.
therapy, right? So like I understand that journey. I've done a whole heap and ton of healing, right? So I understand that journey, right? And I also understand how to bring folks like through that, right? Like, am I a
Mm-hmm.
therapist? I am not a therapist. I will say that again. I am not a therapist. I'm not your
Not a
therapist. You know what I mean?
therapist.
I am not a clinical social worker. I am none of those things, right? But I am a coach, and I'm someone who has walked this journey, and I've learned a lot, and I've reflected on it, and I've written it down, and I've taken the time to then invest in a coaching journey so that I can, take all of these frameworks, excuse me, that I've learned and new ones that have helped me. And I'm able to put this into a package that, condenses my, say, 10 years of therapy, my 10 years of learning how to love myself, my 10 years of building a brand, right? And building an online
Mm-hmm.
presence, right? Taking all of that, right? It's over a decade, but over a decade of experience and putting that into, say, 8 weeks, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
or a 30-day boot camp, right? Or, whatever it is, if it's a 6 month program, right? If it's a little bit longer. And I think that is like, that's really the key. And that's the cool thing about coaching. You know what I mean? It's like, there's somebody who's like, hey, I did all of this work, and this is how I look at it for me, right? I'm like, I did all of this work, right? I went to my therapy sessions. I cried. I read all the books. You know what I mean? I listened to the
Mm-hmm.
podcasts. I listened to the audio books. I talked, talked things out with, certain family members. Like I've processed with friends. Like, you know what I mean? I've done so much, right? And then also on top of that, throughout that journey, I built my brand. I was able to, provide opportunities for other people. I know what that looks like. I've been a boss, I've been an employee. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then that, because that's the thing. Sometimes you work with people and it's like, oh, baby, you ain't been in the trenches. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about the trenches, you ain't been in the trenches. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but been there, you know what I mean? Dug myself out through the mud. And, I'm at a place in life where it's like, the waters aren't turbulent anymore, right? And I didn't do it by myself, right? I wasn't able to build a boat and learn how to paddle like on my own, right? Like I had guides along the way. And I think that's the beauty of coaching, because as you were going through all the different coaches you had, I was like, oh shoot, you know what? I was like, let me write mine down as you were talking, because I forgot about some of mine. Because I too, I had a creative arts therapist. That was she was, when I was living in New York, she was one of the best, still hands down, like therapist I ever
Period.
had. Yeah, like just hands down, like so transformational. And just the fact that she was able to also curate um group therapy on top of the individual therapy that was curated for Black women in small groups, in person at that. This is pre-COVID. So that was really awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really meaningful. I also did have a movement coach as well. We are supposed to be a dance coach as well, like movement, dance, body. We didn't really get to like, I think like the dance part because COVID did hit. And so a lot of what we ended up doing was on Zoom, but she was still able to be really effective in like helping me take the trauma that like lived in my body, that lived in my joints and my bones and my aches and my pains, taking that trauma and like moving it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just moving
Yeah.
it to someplace else, not just taking the aches in my shoulder and moving it to my lower back, right? But like taking it and like releasing it, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I had my movement coach. Then I mean, I've had so many therapists over the years, so I'm gonna just put them all in like one. Everybody else goes in one lump. You know what I mean? My creative arts was very important. The movement therapist was really important. All the other therapists, and then my boundaries coach was the next one that I invested in. Oh gosh, when did I start with her? I feel like it was like in 2025, perhaps.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah, yeah. And so I started working with her, and this is where you start. And this is what we were talking about, right? In terms of investing in yourself, right? Boundaries are something that a lot of us, as people of color, Black folk, okay, like boundaries are not necessarily always taught in healthy ways. You're not
Nope.
always demonstrated healthy ways of having boundaries, not only with other people, right? It could be your parents, right? You're not allowed to cross
Yes.
certain boundaries with your parents. You're not allowed to have certain feelings and things like that with your parents, right? Same thing with whether it's other family members, with friends, right? Learning those boundaries. And it's not a sense of like I'm putting up walls, I'm putting up blocks, right? But it's just saying, okay, what am I comfortable with, what am I not comfortable with, where's my voice in all of this, and how can I speak up and just stand firm in my boundary. You know what I mean? Like whatever
Yeah.
it looks like. And so she has been and still is, I still work with her, really instrumental in me creating boundaries, even in relationships that were already good. You know what I mean? Like relationships that weren't strained or anything like that, but just how can I have better boundaries for myself, right? So that I'm not burnt out because I don't know how to say no, right? Because I'm saying yes all the time, right?
Yeah. And that's a really good point you make because that
Yeah.
was when I came to you, that was a really big issue that I was having
Mm-hmm.
with my job at the time. There was, because COVID had hit, like I worked in a company that did, you know, delivery. So everybody, like the volume went up drastically. And so I was continuously being pulled on, right,
Mm-hmm.
to say yes, to show up because if I didn't do it, who's gonna do it? How many of us know? We know that we know that struggle.
Where it's
And
like
I
if
was
if
like,
if nobody else go do it, well, I guess I gotta do it.
Get yeah, but it really then in me doing all the things, it made it so that I felt like I had to get somebody else to do it. And the
Yeah.
it was the creative, right? The creative work, and that's why I was like, oh my God, Crystal, please help me. Help.
Yeah. I know. And I feel like a lot of us during the pandemic, like we got into our creative bag, but we also had to like redefine it. You know what I mean? And some people had to discover it for the first time. You luckily already were creative, but you just needed some guidance, you know what I mean, like, and some molding a little bit, right? Like you were like clay, and like just needed some molding a
True.
little bit. And I feel like going through that process allowed you to, and this is like way back when, when I was in like the grassroots of it, right? And it was just like we're on a Google Doc and you're just spitting things out, talking. I'm asking the questions and you're just giving me answers, right? You have the freedom. You don't have to worry about, oh, did I jot this down? Did I write this right? No, 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 no. Right? Like I'm taking all the notes. I'm keeping track. All you got to do is speak. Speak on your brand. Speak on your heart. Speak on your purpose. Speak on what God has sent you here to accomplish. Right?
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a beautiful transformation because it was like, oh, now I have a mission, statement in one sentence. Now I have a vision statement in one sentence. And, just thinking about your brand, in more concise terms. Because I think, you know, what the problem is sometimes, and I had this problem myself, right, is that we know what we do and kind of, how we do it and things like that, but we've never put pen to paper to say this is exactly what it is word for word, right? This is my boundary. I serve these people. I don't do this, right? We speak this way. You know what I mean? Like there's so many layers to building excuse me, not just the business but the brand, right? The brand is the whole experience. The brand is your story. The brand is all of the intangible things, right? Like you could sell body butters, for example. I have one person who just signed up for my next program and she does like body butters, right? You can sell body butters
Hmm.
all you want, right? A million people selling body butters. What makes you different, right?
Hmm.
How can we get to the root of that, right? Really, what makes you different is you, right? Anybody can whip up some body butters, right? You can have the best ingredients on the planet, right? You and like 10 other people, right? But
Hmm.
your story, right? How you sell yourself and your why behind that is even more important, right? People buy from people, right? This is free game at this point, y'all. So I hope
Truly,
folks are taking notes.
truly.
But to be honest, like people buy from people, right? Like they don't buy from robots. We don't buy, like, we buy because there's some type of emotional connection, or you know what I mean? There's some type of connection there that makes me feel something. And
Hmm.
I want that product because I know that product is tied to that feeling and that emotion. Right.
Hmm.
So that, child, don't get me going. I
Truly.
forgot the reason why I said all that, but um, I say all that to say, like it's deep.
It
And
is.
building a brand is really important, and it's a lot of folks we're quick to, and I did it myself too. Like we quick to make logo and
Truly.
you know what I mean, and t-shirts, and you know what I mean, and hey, there's no shade, right? I love a t-shirt, you know what I mean. But before you get to your logo, before you get to your t-shirt, right? Before you even get to maybe even doing an event, you know what I mean? And maybe you have done events, right? Maybe you're already established, but you haven't done the groundwork. You haven't done the foundational work of understanding your brand, its experience, your story, your customers, what they need, what they don't need, and where your boundaries are. Um, so I go back to saying, right? Back to the original point. My boundaries coach was really important because it allowed me not only to have boundaries with other people, right? Individuals, friends, family, but it allowed me to have better boundaries with myself, right? Like, hey, girl, you said you were gonna get up and go take your dog. You gonna take Tiggy? You know what I mean? For also, I don't know if I told the people that I have a dog, but I have a dog now. We're gonna get back to that. We're gonna have a whole episode about Tiggy. Anyways, because he's a whole nother situation. At least he's nice and quiet now, sleeping on my lap. But
Love that.
like for example, like you say you're gonna take Tiggy on a 45-minute walk, all right? Like you cannot take Tiggy on a 45-minute walk, right? But you said you was gonna do that. That's something you said, right? You set for yourself. So if you can't
Mhm.
even hold true and commit to the things that you said you were gonna do for yourself, right? Even if
Mhm.
it's, hey, I'm gonna shower, every night, by like 8 o'clock or whatever time, because I know that if I don't, then I'm gonna be tired and I'm just gonna hurry up and go up in there and just hurry up and get out. You know what I mean? Like I want to
Mhm.
actually be able to take my time. Like those are also boundaries with yourself, right? And you're allowed to set those. And so in setting that boundary, right? um and we going I'm trying not to give them all the free game now, but
You
let me
know,
just
we
say
gotta
this
do our
last.
best.
I know, but listen, y'all just take notes. In setting that boundary, right, you then get to determine what happens and what doesn't happen from there, right? What do you say yes to?
Mhm.
What do you say no to? Oh, I'm gonna say no to going out after work, because if I go out after work, I'm not gonna leave the bar until 7:30, and it takes 30 minutes to get home, and then by the time I get home, I have to unwind and decompress, and then okay, now I'm not gonna be able to take my shower or whatever you said you're gonna do at 8 o'clock, right? Now that
Yep.
that time frame is pushed because you
Yep.
said yes to something else when you could have said no,
Mhm.
so that you could stick to your
Mhm.
boundary, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
my
Yes.
boundaries coach, ooh, she's another transformational one. I think she's up there with my creative arts therapist, my movement therapist, and my boundaries coach, as well as my like my coach like Coach Kelly J, who like taught me how to actually like walk in my coach, my what do you call it, my coachdom, my coachhood, my
Coachhood. That's good.
I
Coachhood.
like that coachhood, right? My coachhood. um I feel like that's top four. And I think one commonality that I will tell you about each of them, they were all Black women, all four, right? And I'm not saying I didn't
Period.
learn. I'm not saying I didn't learn. I've had white therapists, I've had a Hispanic therapist, I even had a male therapist at one point. But those four I just named, right? My creative arts
Mhm.
therapist, Jennifer, Amina, my movement therapist, Jennifer, my boundaries coach, Amira, and then, my coachhood coach, Coach Kelly J, right? Like, this is what I said from before, seeing someone in a position doing something that maybe you've never seen done before in that way is really powerful when they look like you, right? Having
Mhm.
someone who looks like you, understands your foundationally, right? Understands things
Mhm.
about culture, uh, you, and how race and gender and all that intersectionality works for you, already has that foundational knowledge, right? So that you can
Mhm.
then do the deeper work, right? I don't have to explain why it's hard to be a Black woman in America. You know what I mean? I don't have to
Right.
explain why, what this person said at work was a microaggression, or I have to explain to you what a microaggression is. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying other therapists can't do this work, right? Like, I'm not saying that at all. And that's not what I want to be taken away from this, right? What I'm saying is that those four experiences were that much more transformational because those four women shared identities with me. We heal
Mhm.
in community. We grow in community. We don't do things by ourselves,
We
especially as
don't,
people of
y'all.
color, especially as like, listen, anybody who's not a colonizer, you feel me? Like your ancestors, existed in community. Your ancestors,
Hmm.
thrived in community. Our ancestors did that, you know? And so we have been so disconnected from just community, right? Prior, like pre-COVID, right? Like, let's break that down. Pre-COVID, right? We already had like social media, things like that. Everyone's online, everyone's in their phones, right? COVID hits, now everything's online. All right.
Yes,
We
everything,
we
everything.
got versus battles going on Instagram. We
Oh
got
my God, what a
DJ D
time!
Nice on the ones and twos. We got, I mean, we have everything. Everything's online. Everything's online. All right. Even to the point where
Hmm.
like I don't have to go outside anymore because everything can get delivered to me. So I don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. I don't even, speaking of which, I don't even have to go to Sephora. I needed some foundation, which is absolutely beyond me. I was like, I need to get some foundation, but the Sephora like in the Kohl's near my house doesn't have like the foundation I need because it's a small one or whatever. So I might have to go to like one of the bigger ones at the outlet. And when my best friend who I live with, um, she was like, "Oh, why don't you just like order it on like Instacart or DoorDash?" And I'm like, "Huh? Huh?"
Right.
And lo and behold, you best believe I went up on that app and I sure could order me some foundation, some setting powder, and whatever else I needed from Sephora. And we'll do that immediately, after the closing of this episode. But I say all that to say, coaching is important, therapy is important. Yeah, I feel like I've been talking for a while. I feel like I've been
It is.
going.
It is really important. I think that the one seeing people who look like you, look like me, look like us, doing the things that we desire to do is so important because it causes it to feel more like we can really achieve that thing, right?
Yeah,
Someone who shows us that the way there is a way and that this person has made one. And because they've
right,
made one, they then can help me make a way, right?
right.
Then understanding something you said, which was like, what makes you different, right? As someone who is going out and having a brand and selling a product, whatever it is, like what makes you different? It is that you have to know who you are. And what better way
Mm-hmm.
to know who you are than through investing in therapy, investing in coaching, investing really in mirrors, right? Because that's what they
Mm-hmm.
are, investing in mirrors to show you who you are and then also show you what you like and what you don't like and maybe where you want to make changes. And then
Yeah.
a coach really comes into play to really help you to keep you accountable, right, for the changes that you need to make
Mm-hmm.
and all the stuff you need to do. So for me, when I was working remotely, as all of us, if we were blessed to be working during that time, right? Um,
Child.
you're working from your computer, and so you're looking at a computer 8 10 hours a day. I was working so many hours because the volume was so big, but I also knew that my purpose was big. I knew that
Mm-hmm.
what I was being called to do was big, and it felt like my job, right, the system of capitalism had been bigger, right? And that is a
Mm-hmm.
struggle that you as a Black woman, right, understood, right? And when I came to you and said, "Hey, I really need help. I need to organize. I don't know what I don't know I don't know how to even trying to put it together in my head was so hard." And so
Mm-hmm.
seeing someone who looked like me, you, right, who was doing something that I wanted, right, supporting in branding and coaching with that thing, and also I don't know if y'all know, but Crystal's a celebrity, okay? Like she's been on TV. She done worked with some of the top producers. She is one of the top producers, okay? Like we don't she has to don't talk about that, okay? But she's a big fish, okay? And so I was like, I'm a media girly. I want to be in that. I want to do that thing. This person is doing this thing that I want to do. Please help. So I really, again, like appreciate, what you did. Like you took time with me. We had many a session
Oh
over
yeah.
years, over
Oh yeah.
years.
Truly. And it wasn't even, it didn't even start out to be that, because we were just like,
No. Hmm.
yeah, we just like chit chatting, you know what I mean? Like we was just casual homies, you know what I mean? And then I feel like it just developed from there, and we worked so well together. And I will say, like, also, like, give yourself credit too, because there's so many ways that you've poured into me as well. So I feel like in a lot of ways it ended up being a give and take. And you know, it just, like you said, it just ended up going over a number of years. And like,
Yeah, for
even,
sure.
yeah, and like, even when life we have our ebbs and flows, you know what I mean, and we ebb and then we flow, you know what I mean, and we come back together, and it's like no time has passed, and it's
Past.
like we can
Yeah.
pick up. It's not like I have to be like, hey, well, this is how we just smooth like butter, baby, smooth like butter,
This is
you
very
know.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
um but yeah, I definitely, what so, okay, let me say this to somebody who is curious about coaching,
Hmm.
and might be like a little hesitant. I don't know what's so special about it, right? Like, we just gave a nice little rundown.
Yeah.
But I would say, what are your top three benefits from coaching?
Accountability. And working with you, it was clear and kind accountability. So it's not like you're lording
Mm,
over me like, you better get this done. Like that wasn't the energy, right? The
yeah,
energy was very much so nurturing, but also very powerful, right? And just very
yeah.
clear. Like, okay, these are the steps. Which step are you at? And also, how can I help you move to the next one?
Hmm.
So that's one thing, the accountability. Another word that's coming to mind is curiosity. These may also be things that, if you are looking for a coach, you want to also consider, right? Crystal, you were very curious with me when we worked together. You asked me a lot of
Hmm.
questions. And in asking a lot of those questions, it caused me to go deeper, really
Hmm.
think about what it is that I wanted to do. So I guess that would also, I guess I kind of, um,
Shout out to my journalism degree, because they make sure you know how to be real nosy, real curious, poke around. And not just that, it's more than just being nosy, right? Like, it's asking the right questions and asking pointed questions so that other people can get their gears turning, so that, we can get to the underlying issue, we can get to the underlying feeling, and whatever. Because sometimes it's not what you're saying, it's like also what's not being said. And so
yeah,
how can I see what you're not saying, right? And like,
yeah.
that's a skill, and that's a muscle that, like, I don't even know how to explain how to do it. I just know how to do it. And it was something that, we learned how to, ask the right questions and things like that. But I think really hearing what's not being said underneath, someone's words, is really important. And I try to, because let me say this, right, back to the trauma real quick, just to
Capital
bring it
T.
around. Capital T for what? Trauma. So when you've dealt with a lot of trauma, right, and you've also done like a lot of healing, right, and well, let me just say, when you've dealt with a lot of trauma, period, I feel like it can do two things to you, right? Like, it can make you, maybe three. It can make you repeat that trauma, right? Meaning, like, you
Yes.
then go and you're repeating the trauma in your own life, or you're perpetuating that same trauma onto other people, right? Um, it can make you kind of like numb, right? Where like you're just not dealing with it at all. And then I feel like there's those of us who find power and purpose in it and use it so that other people can be seen, right? Like, when you know what it's like to not be seen, what it's like to feel small, what it's like to feel unheard, right? Um, you Something clicks in you, and something clicked in me, many, many years ago, that, like, I don't want anybody in my vicinity who I love, who I, you know what I mean, to ever feel the way I felt during those traumatic years of my life, those many, many traumatic years, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like I carry that sentiment in everything that I do, you know what I mean? From top to bottom. You know, it doesn't matter if it's the cashier at 7-Eleven, or it's my client that we're working with, or it's the president of the university. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I want people to feel seen. And um, you know, sometimes, especially as creatives and those who are stuck in the 9 to 5 cycle, right? Like, sometimes those things are not rewarded, right? Like, um those are not skills that a typical job is like, hey, you know what, like, you should get a raise. Like, people feel seen by you, you know? Like, a lot of times it's dollars and cents. Like, did you make us more money? Like, are you saving us money, you know, type deals. So but
Hmm.
yeah, I always want, I want people to feel seen, and I'm glad you were able to feel seen, for sure. um but with that being said, I think I should tell the people about the program, right? We've been talking about this
Oh yeah, you
program the
should
whole
tell. You should.
time, right? Like, you had this whole transformational experience. We ain't tell them what the program is. I ain't giving them
Duh.
breakdown. So let me say this: the Crystal Lens experience, right, is a transformational, groundbreaking. I mean, Sunday gave, you know, all the words that you can think of. But it's an experience, right? The Crystal Lens experience, it is an experience, a transformational journey, of taking your brand to the next level, right? Whether you're starting from scratch and you're like, hey, I have this thing and I've been doing this thing and I want to make it more refined. I want the words, I want the language. Um, the Crystal Lens experience will take you through that journey to having the language. So
Hmm.
give y'all a little breakdown. It's an 8-week program. All right. 2 months out of your life. I condensed a lot of time, effort, and money into a short amount of time, into a nice little package for y'all. But it's an 8-week program. We go through 8 different steps of branding. So we start off with your brand basics in week 1. Week 2, we're going to give you a mission statement, work on that. What is your mission, right? Like, what is your actual purpose, right? And putting that into words, right? It's not just like, well, I'm here to help people and do this and that. Like, what is it, right? Like, if you have a service, right, or you offer a service, or even if you offer a good, right, like, you're there to help people, right? Like, people need what you have, but you got to go deeper than that. So we go deeper, and talk about that in week 2. Week 3, we go over a vision statement. Vision statements are fun because you get to think about the future, you get to dream a little bit, you get to think about, just think about being a kid again, and just having an open mind to just let your thoughts run wild, and dream your biggest dreams. So we go over vision statements and how to put that together in week 3. Week 4, we go over your brand promise, right? So every brand has a something that they promise, right? Whether it's luxury, whether it's affordability, something, right? Like, every brand has a promise. What is yours? What can you promise your customers, your clients, the people who are purchasing from you, getting your goods, getting your service? What can you promise them? Week 5 is going to be your brand personality, right? So, like, giving your brand some life, you know what I mean? That little je ne sais quoi, you feel me? Hey.
Hmm.
So, okay. So putting a little life into your brand. And then week 6, we go into your brand experience, right? So this is fun because you get to talk about and really pinpoint and get language for a lot of the intangibles, that, it's like, I know, like, people, they always, they have a good time, or they always end up talking to me, and, or this and that when they're in my chair. Like, how can we take all of these experiences that, people are having, and put that into language of, like, what that experience is, right?
Right. Right.
Week 7, we have our elevator pitch, where we're going to take all the previous weeks, all the other 6 weeks but prior to this, right? And how do you condense your brand story, your mission, your vision, your brand promise, your brand personality, your brand experience, and condense that into literally an elevator pitch, right? Like if you're going from floor 1 to floor 6, all right, and you parked on floor 6 and somebody hops on and their hair ain't looking too good and you do hair, right? How can you connect with that person, build a relationship with them. Again, we only got 6 floors to do this, right? Tell them about
Mhm.
yourself, what you do, right? How you do it and what makes you so different, and have them understand it, right? That's the other part. You can say what you want to say, but people have to understand it. And then potentially loop them in and gain that curiosity. Well, you're not necessarily trying to say like, hey, like I'm trying to sell you my body butter by the time we get to the 6th floor, right? But I want you to be
Mhm.
curious enough about my brand, my business, and understand what I do in a very short, concise way. Right. So that's that elevator pitch. And the elevator pitch that week is really important because this is where you start. You're already building confidence every week. That's thing number one. Because one thing about me, you're going to build confidence whether you like it or not. Whatever I do, whatever I touch, okay, whatever project I'm doing, like you're going to do it with confidence. But when you do the elevator pitch, that's really the part where you're like, all right, I feel comfortable walking into any room, talking to any person about what I do, why I'm important, and why somebody should work with me, right? Why I'm
Mhm.
attracting, right? You're not chasing, you're attracting. Why I'm attracting the right people, right? Um, and then in week 8, we go over just like your final transformation. We put everything together. We kind of review. And then I also give it's a 6-part social media. This is like extra. Cause that's one thing about me. And this is like, I feel like maybe I should be better in business, but like I love the people, and sometimes I love the people like too much. But I like giving out free stuff. You know what I mean? I like to throw in a little extra this, a little extra that to like really get you going. So,
Makes
in the
sense to
final,
me.
okay, you feel me, right? Like I want you to have the tools. I have a lot of tools, right? And I'm trying not to give you like the entire garage worth of tools because that's gonna overwhelm you. But I want you to have what you need to be successful at the end of these 8 weeks. So in that final week, like I said, we're going to go over the entire transformation, everything we went through. We are going to be able to give elevator pitches like it's no tomorrow. And then I'm going to give you a 6-part social media formula. So this is something that you can use, right? 6-part formula to curate social media posts, your social media presence, right? Because it's not just about,
Mhm.
well, I use blue and yellow and this and that, and the designs are great, right? But
Yeah.
what is your social media presence? So I throw that in, and then for my next cohort that which is starting on March 7th. Um, you guys are also going to be able to come on the podcast just like Sunday did. All right,
Whoop,
talk
whoop.
about you'll have a, a little mini episode. Where you come talk about your experience in the program, but most importantly, talk about your brand and really exercise your ability to talk about what you do and really show people why you love what you do and why we should come check you out, right? So
Mhm.
that the 6-part social media formula. And then also we will do a live as well. So we can do an Instagram live or a Facebook live, whatever your preference is, like wherever you think your target audience is, we can go live there. And again, just kind of do similar to what we do on the podcast, where we just kind of talk about your brand, talk about what you do, and just give you that platform, give you a little bit more of a push, give you some media exposure, some media experience, because at the core of this, right? And all right, we doing good on time because we said we're
Yes,
gonna
yes.
wrap it up in an hour, right? So let me say this: going back to the inception of the crystal lens, right? And what the crystal lens initially was. The crystal lens was and still is, right? Productions was what I was doing, right? And not just putting on productions, but giving Black and brown folks, the hands-on experience that you're oftentimes not going to get when you work on, big shows, big productions, things like that, right? It was like, how can I create productions, right? Do my media, which I'm already doing, but provide opportunities for folks to get their hands on a camera, talk in front of a camera, be behind a camera, get comfortable with a microphone, learn how to speak without stuttering, right? Practice these skills in real life scenarios and real life situations where we're actually building a documentary or a short film or anything like that. So I at the core of what I do, I'm always going to want folks to feel comfortable in that sense, because if all goes well, and all will go well, okay, you're going to be in front of cameras. You're going to be in front of microphones, right? And how can you get comfortable with that? A lot of people have never done it. It's not something that is like an everyday thing for most people, right? But I did it. I have a degree in it, you know what I mean? And did it
Agreed.
successfully. Okay, degree, baby. Okay. Sitting up in my room. Um, and not just I didn't just go in there and get C's type degrees, you know what I mean? Like I did well. I excelled in school, and I really want to give folks that experience, because even if you're not gonna be, hosting Saturday Night Live, or, being an anchor on the news or whatever, right? Even if it's coming on somebody's podcast, right? You start small and work your way up, right? How can you start getting comfortable with that? So that's always going to be my gift to y'all, is going to be, and I'm probably going to eventually, make it a full program, but I always like to find like little ways to still incorporate the media training that I have, and how I can pass on that knowledge as well. So we're doing branding, but then you're basically getting a bunch of free media exposure and media training at the end. So I say all that to say, all my long-windedness. All right. Um, that program, like I said, it starts on March 7th. All right. If you are interested, all right, the price is only $9.97. All right.
Her.
Period. All right. It's quick, easy. We can break it up into payments if needed. We do that on a case by case basis. You know what I mean? But reach out if you're interested. And you're just like, if something that Sunday and I spoke about today sparked your interest, if something in that breakdown of the program sparked your interest, right? Like, you can book a free 30-minute call with me. Like, let's chat. Let's chat. You know what I mean? And let's see if it's a fit. If this makes sense, right? Do you want to be part of this transformational journey? Is this the right time for you, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just because you have your 997, right, doesn't mean, is it the right time? Are you mentally ready? Are you ready to take this to the next level? Um, and so let's have a conversation. Shoot me a message. I'm all over the internet at the Crystal Lens. You can email me, the Crystal Lens at gmail.com, and just let me know. Hey, just say, hey, I want to chat. I want to book a discovery call. Let's talk about my branding. All right. And let's see if it's a good fit. All right. And, I also,
Period.
yeah. And it's a beautiful thing, because, everybody has the ability to build a brand that is successful. Like, everyone has that, like, that ability, right? But you just need the tools. That's with everything. We talked about therapy today. You just needed the tools. You weren't broken. You just needed the tools, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very simple. No matter what it is, you needed the tools, and you needed somebody to teach you how to use the tools. The carpenter didn't learn how to put in the hardwood floors and build the house and do this and that just by, you know, just nailing, some wood together one day. It's like, no, somebody taught you how to do that. Somebody showed you because somebody showed them, So I say all that to say, I definitely hope that, this sparks something in y'all. And, with the program itself, I can like to keep the cohort small. Like, literally like 6 people, because I like to have that intimate connection with everyone and really give folks that that custom, just like personal experience, right? Like I can do this with like 10 and 20 people, right? And we can still, like, everyone can still come out and have a really transformational experience. But there's something different about doing it in a small group where where you're really able to build those connections with folks, and, just bonds that are, deeper than just surface level. So yeah. How that sound, Sunday? How that sound to
That
you?
sounds truly sounds wonderful. Y'all need to go hit up Crystal, to be honest. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, 997 for the 8 week program. Take you from confused, tired stuff, disconnected, and bring you into clarity, confidence, consistency, elevation, just by building that strong branding foundation. So I should be a rapper because that rhymed. Yeah.
Truly,
Um,
truly.
maybe in my next life, you know, we'll see. Next chapter, maybe in my 40s. We'll see.
Well, shout
I'll
out
be
to
alone.
everybody, for everyone who's listened to this. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you to for us, and thank you to you. All right.
Yeah.
Crystal, take us out, child. Take us out.
Listen, listen, listen. If you liked what you heard, well, before we take it out, where can the people find you, Sunday? I can't take them
Oh,
out
me?
if they. Yeah,
I
we
was
just
like,
gonna
me.
pop in and pop. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
the people to find you, if you don't want to be found, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like I cannot. I will. Whatever you consent to. So whatever you want the people to know about you.
You can find me on the internet, Sunday Rose Gold. That is all across all social media. And yeah, if send me a message.
Period. Say what's up. Something resonated with you. Check Sunday out, Sunday Rose Gold. I am at the Crystal Lens. Don't forget the and there's a L in Crystal and there's a L in Lens. People get all kinds of confused. But wherever you're at, you see the name of the show, you see the name. So you can find me there. And I'll also link Sunday's information into the description wherever you all are consuming this lovely episode from. So, like I said, please reach out. I love y'all. This has been amazing. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I appreciate just all the love and support, as I step into my new chapter, and it feels good. It feels really good. And I'm excited to take you guys on the journey with me. Sunday's definitely gonna be back because you know, we just know that's the girl, that's the homie, you know what I mean, and she gonna be back. We have done so much work together and we can't even capture it all in just one episode. So she'll be back. I'll have other guests on, like I said, once we go through some more cohorts. I'll be bringing on some of our lovely, I'm gonna call them family members. I'm like, I hate like participants. They're like students, like it's the family, right? Like the Crystal Lens family. I'm going to bring on some of the family who have gone through the program and have them talk about their experience and tell you about their awesome business and brand that they'll have all put together. So like I said, I appreciate y'all rocking with me. It's been real, it's been fun, it's been real fun, and I will definitely be back. We're going to try to be as consistent as possible, but I will always be back. That's one thing about me. I will always be back with
Very
another
true.
episode. Okay. We will be back with another episode of The Crystal Lens before you know it. Love y'all, and we out. Bye.